Hello, beautiful souls. Welcome back to another video on Starseed Academy. My name is Jenny. So today I wanted to talk with you about basically like my life so far. And the reason that I want to do this is, first, a lot of people have requested like my story, like how did you get where you are? What has your life been like? You know, a lot of requests for just wanting to hear that. And then also I just feel that there's probably a lot within that story that could help people. I've been through, so many things that I've actually never shared about. Maybe I've just, maybe just not been ready before. But I feel comfortable sharing now. I feel really like blessed in my life, really secure and safe and confident in who I've become, what I've overcome, who I'm becoming. And like the support that I have in my life right now. So I do want to kind of go there, but I am a little nervous. I tried to take notes and they just don't make any sense. So I don't think I'm going to use any notes. I think I'm just going to speak from the heart and kind of start at the beginning. And of course, I want to start at the beginning and describe what I've gone through and end with where I'm at now, because I truly believe that my life is so blessed. I really fully feel, I just know it, that I'm on my highest timeline. I know that I am walking that path. But I do want to just put a little bit of a trigger warning on this video because there's a lot of sensitive subject matter. We're going to be talking about abusive homes, physical, mental abuse. We're going to be talking about religious trauma, religious programming. We're going to be talking about addictions. We're going to be talking about some heavier things. So just a bit of a trigger warning there. If that's going to bother you, then this might not be the video for you, because I don't want to hold back in the things that I've overcome. And then that being said, let's just kind of dive in and see where this takes us. So I set up like a protective space before I started this video, to just ask like God source, whom I call Baba, like please help me to channel through or bring through or naturally share the things that are going to help people the most. It doesn't need to be every single detail, but what's going to help people? Like what parts of my story are going to be healing for others. I know that we go through all of the hardships that we go through because we are learning lessons, and then we can use those lessons to help others. I know that everything that I've been through is not for no reason. I've truly gotten to a point where I can be grateful. And you know that you've really reached a powerful place of healing when you can be grateful to the pain in your life, in your past, to the abusers, the aggressors, to actually be thankful and grateful to them for the role that they played. I do want to say that, if you have someone in your life that abused you as a child or is continuing to do so in any way, many times those souls sign up to be that person for you, right? Like before we come here into this incarnation, when we're creating soul contracts, there has to be someone that will kind of press your buttons or push you to the brink of, your lowest point, to a breakdown, to rock bottom even. And many times the bad guy in your life is a soul that agreed to play that part for you, agreed to play that role for you, and it weighs heavy on you both. It can be because there's karma between you two to unravel, or it could be, like in my case, I believe the reason is that I needed intensity, intense darkness, intense pressure to create like the diamond, which would be like the spiritual awakening for me later. I feel like my mission is so important to me. My earth mission is so clear and was so clear at such a young age, that I really wanted to wake up as soon as possible. So I agreed to a lot of, what you're going to hear about. in my soul contracts. As hard as that is to say, and I'm not saying that about you. I'm not taking away from anyone's pain by saying that. I'm just saying that I don't view myself as a victim. I did for a long time, but I don't anymore. I kind of feel like it was all orchestrated, divinely orchestrated to get me exactly where I am. And I wouldn't want to be anywhere else. And I wouldn't want to be anyone else. Like, that just made me so emotional even to just say that. Like, it took so much to get here in this moment right now. So should we share maybe some of the happy stuff before we get into the dark stuff? So what is this moment for me right now? My highest timeline is I broke free of 9 to 5 programming, which is working for someone else, and I am my own boss with my own business as a spiritual entrepreneur. I am a spiritual leader and teacher. That archetype continues to show up for me lifetime after lifetime. Now that I've uncovered so many, I'm always like a teacher. You know how some people are always healers? I'm always a teacher. It feels so natural to me. And that is, you know, arriving back into that place at a, you know, a fairly young age, really owning that and coming into my own, and just like being of service to the light in that way, being of service to other souls and service to the light. It's so huge to me. It's what I always wanted. I'm also, you know, you'll hear all the things that I went through. I've broken free of so many things, like PTSD, anxiety, depression, addiction, abuse, victim mentality, lack mentality, poverty, being trapped in a wrong relationship, being trapped in the wrong timeline, finding my way here to this timeline where I have all the good. Your timeline is very real. I know I say this to you all the time, but I want you to know it's not a fantasy. It's not far off, like, oh, in years from now. It can be tomorrow. Once you start walking the path of your highest timeline, you're on it. You just have to start. It takes a decision, one step at a time. You don't get 10 steps in advance. You get one step at a time, okay? So you have to take action. Divine action is how you make it happen. You take the step. You get brave, you get courageous, you make your first YouTube video, or you make your first Instagram post, or whatever it is, you start. You have to start somewhere. And like for me, I started very nervously on YouTube, which expanded to Instagram, which expanded to taking one-on-one services with clients, which then expanded to running a membership, a successful monthly membership, Starseed Academy membership, which is like this, so precious to me. It is like such a high vibrational place that I get to hang out once a week with all the members, and we do such incredible events. I have a link below for you to check out. Like, you can find my one-on-one services, you can find the membership, you can find the Instagram page in there. Everything's within that link. And then expanded past the membership to running my very first course, which sold out, was so incredibly successful. And I did this in the month of March, I think it was. And I think it overlapped February to March because it was like 6 weeks. It was so powerful. The reviews, the testimonials, like, are what people could only dream of. And so now I'm planning my next course, which is going to follow along with what the content of this video is. So I do want to mention it now at the beginning. It's going to be how to unlock your highest timeline. And so you'll see, like, I really know that I've unlocked something within myself. I've discovered the pattern, the keys, the way to get onto your highest timeline, that first step. Once you get onto that first step, all you have to do is just take one small step after the next, and you're there, right? So it's really powerful, and I want to share that process with people. So I'm going to be doing that in my next course that's coming out in June, called Unlock Your Highest Timeline. So okay, so now we've kind of covered a little bit of intro, so that when I get into some of this harder stuff, you know that I'm okay now. Like, I'm so blessed now. I'm like, just, oh my God, so blessed. I only just talked about my business, but honestly, like, I left a relationship that wasn't, you know, aligned with me very recently, within the last year, moved to a new country where there's more freedoms, moved to the US from Canada, fell in love, true love, with somebody that is spiritual, aligned, supportive, really truly sees me. Got married on April 3rd, which is really very soon. Spent a week at Disney World for our honeymoon. I'm about to go, after this video, look at a brand new car for myself. I have an immigration lawyer working towards a green card, which is going to be, 6 to 8 months, not that long. And moving May 15th into a new home. So basically all the good, like so many blessings that it's actually a little overwhelming, all the good. But when that's what your highest timeline is like, it's literally all the good just coming raining down on you, and it's limitless. It's limitless. And I'm just going to continue going with it. My next course, my next step with my new love, with my husband. Oh my goodness, that sounds so crazy to say. It's just all the good. So let's go back in time now. Okay, so I was born in Canada, and I was born into a very abusive home. My parents were the victims of severe parental abuse, physical, sexual, and then they got together at like 16. I think they both ran away from home because it was so bad, and started a family very, very young. I have one older sister and myself, and like at that point, like obviously my parents should not have had children. They were not ready. They were not ready to be parents. Clearly, they hadn't done any of their own work. And so when that happens, they hand down to you those patterns of trauma, right? So they just completely played out those patterns, those cycles of abuse again. So my father is an addict. So I just remember being really young and, seeing a lot of mood swing changes with him, going from being like during the day, like very grumpy, violent, aggressive, to at night when he was hanging out with his friends in the basement, like doing drugs or whatever, drinking too, being super like overly silly, laughing, too overly friendly, like just weird, like not himself. It was really confusing at such a young age to understand what was happening. When things got really bad and he was so violent with my mom and stuff, there was an ultimatum where he had to go to rehab, and he did. And then he was just gone, and it was never explained to me where he went. I remember that my mom in the middle of the night packed up clothes in a suitcase, and I saw her packing up her clothes, and I went into the bedroom, and I'm very, very young. I'm thinking like 5 or less. And I'm like, you're taking me with you, right? Like, you're not going to leave me here. And she's like, do you want to come with me? And like the fear that I felt at being left behind was so intense, that it was even potentially an option that she wasn't going to take me. And maybe that's not how she meant that question, but that's how it felt at that age. I was so like this wave of fear, like, oh my God, yes, you have to take me with you. And we got into a cab in the middle of the night. And I remember the cab driver saying, where are you two running away from? At this point, my sister wasn't with us. She was staying with an aunt and her cousins for the summer. So it was just me and my mom. And it was like, yeah, I just remember you just so crystal clear, I don't remember anything else at such a young age, but those moments that were so clear. And he was just like, the cab driver was like, so where are you two ladies? What are you running from? And my mom's like, huh, we're not running. No. Like, meanwhile, we definitely were. So then my dad found us where we ran to, and that's when the ultimatum happened, and he had to go to rehab before my mom would agree to like go back home. So he did, but nobody told me. I know now that's where he was. I didn't know where he was. He was just gone for months. And so my mom moved us from the city, Toronto, to the countryside in Ontario, Canada. And we had to start all over again, like new school, just completely starting over without my dad in a home. And at that time, that's when my first past life came through. I've talked about it before, but I will just quickly touch on it here because it was so impactful for me. I had the same dream every single night for the entire summer. My sister was back with us too, in case anyone was wondering. It was the 3 of us girls in the house. I had the same dream every single night, and I remember telling my sister a lot. I tried to tell my mom a bit, but my sister was more like open to listening. And I told her every night I would wake up and I would be this boy soldier, in the middle of a war, bombs and explosions going off all around me. I didn't know how to get free. I didn't know where to go. So I'm so lucid. I was truly there in that moment. It's almost like being transported back in time. It was so much more than a dream. And I would start to run, and I didn't know which way. I would just run forwards, right? And then I would be captured. Every time it happened the same way. And I was this prisoner of war, and I was tortured. They did terrible things to my friends, the other soldiers, my co-soldiers. And I remember them doing like painful torture to my feet. I didn't know why. I think now, maybe just thinking about it, it was so that we couldn't run away. I'm not really sure. But I remember them like skinning the bottom of my feet. That was one of like the clearest things. And I would wake up, freak out, and be grabbing at my feet to make sure that they were okay, because it was so real, this dream. This was a dream I could not wake up from, no matter how much I tried. I remember knowing, because it happened like for a summer. It's like 3 months straight, every single night, the same dream. So I would wake up in the dream, like feel like you're waking up as this young boy. And this was all a past life coming through that needed healing. But I was in grade 1, like grade 1. Like I had no idea like how old would I have been? Maybe 5, 6 years old. I don't know. I would try to wake myself up from the dream, because I knew that, because it happened every single night, I knew it was a nightmare. Is that what I thought it was? I would try to wake myself up, and I couldn't. I had to live it out every single night, this torture. And I would wake up and cry and tell my sister about my friends. And I'd be like, they hurt their feet. They hurt my feet. And she would take me. I remember her taking me, which was really sweet, actually. She took me down the street to like a friend that we had, a little girl, and she was skipping rope. And my sister's like, see, she's skipping rope. Her feet are okay. But she didn't understand that I meant my friends in this as these soldiers, right? Anyway, that's all really hard for a mom my mom was already under a lot of pressure, going through a lot, and didn't understand any of this. So she really thought, that there was probably something wrong with me, and that I needed some kind of help. So when these Jehovah's Witnesses came knocking at her door, they seemed like that hope to her, that help. Then she wouldn't be so alone. She felt very alone. And there were these 2 like women that came, because they go knocking on doors to help, like to try to convert people. And she started a Bible study with them, and started like really getting into it, and then bringing me and my sister. And so at that very young age, that was when I became a Jehovah's Witness, because of my mom's decision to do so. So so we took on this Jehovah's Witness religion, which is extremely strict, extremely strict. At that time, it was 3 meetings a week, Tuesday, Thursday, Sunday. Plus you have to go out on service, which means going door to door every Saturday and Sunday if you can, to try to convert people. There was so many rules. Like, obviously you probably know some of them. Maybe you haven't heard of it, but you can't celebrate like holidays, like your birthday or Christmas or anything like that. There's no celebrations. There's no leeway when it comes to like personal expression. Like I wasn't able to wear like colored nail polish. I had to wear like skirts or dresses and not pants, to the meetings. I couldn't have anyone outside of that religion was called like worldly. I couldn't have worldly friends. They had to be Jehovah's Witnesses. I couldn't hang out with anyone that wasn't a Jehovah's Witness. And really that's all just to keep you inside this box, so that you don't get like pulled off of this path of being a Jehovah's Witness. They want them to all just hang out with each other and not anybody else, right? So it's also very judgmental, though, very judgmental, because it's like, well, when Armageddon comes, which is the end of the world, all of the worldly people will be killed by God, and only Jehovah's Witnesses will be allowed to live and continue on, and then we're going to turn the world into like a paradise on earth. So if you don't follow exactly these rules, you won't be saved. So there was a lot of fear. So they ruled with fear. They ruled with guilt and shame, those 3 mainly. If they couldn't frighten you out of doing something, then they would guilt you. So the frightening parts was they talked about demons a lot. I remember my mom saying to me, when I was a bit older then, saying to me, if you smoke a cigarette, a demon can get in through the cigarette. They were all about demons. There was a lot going on for fear with demons. Like basically the idea was that demons were just waiting for you to make one tiny misstep so they could snatch you off of your path to God, and you would be, your soul, or they actually didn't believe in souls, and your existence would end. You would not be remembered by God and brought back to life in this paradise on earth. They did not believe in eternal souls. They just believed that this is your one life, and when you die, you go to sleep, and then when God creates the paradise on earth, he'll bring you back to life in a resurrection. If you weren't good, he won't bring you back to life. You'll just never exist ever again, which is what would happen to the worldly people, right? And everything, all the meetings and literature, everything was always about that darkness, right? It was either about demons, about how the worldly people are going to get you and snare you, about how Armageddon was on its way, and notice the signs of the times. And it was very heavy. It was very negative and very heavy. And, religious programming is powerful, especially at such a young age. It's like completely brainwashes you. I mean, I was too young to know any different. And then the repetition part of like 3 meetings a week, saying a lot of the same things all the time, and it being at home and all these rules and everything. I mean, it was powerful. And it ruled my life, and the shame and guilt part was that they were always like, whenever they would pray, they would call us undeserving. Like, we are so undeserving, God, we are just begging for you to just forgive us. We're so sinful. And I just don't believe that. Like, that's not how I feel, but that's how they wanted you to feel. Like you were almost worthless in a way. Like, a lot of those words were very harmful to a young girl growing up. And then, of course, like, as in many religions, women were very much second to the man. We had to wear, like, we couldn't wear the pants. If we had to talk on stage, we couldn't stand up at the podium. We had to sit. There's a lot of, like, small things that added up to a lot. The man was the head of the household, and the women had to listen to him at all costs. There was no divorce at all. If you did anything really bad, like divorce or adultery or anything like that, you were disfellowshipped, which means you were shunned. You were kicked out. You were shunned. Your family was not allowed to speak to you if you got disfellowshipped. They could get in trouble. They could not speak to you because you were too dangerous then to be around others, because you were so sinful. You could hurt others, right? So if somebody got disfellowshipped in your family, you had to just say goodbye. Like, you couldn't speak to them, you couldn't anything. It was so much pressure, yeah. So I also feel like religions like this, which I would consider this like a very powerful cult, but I know that it has a lot of similarities to like Pentecostal and maybe Roman Catholic. It was a Christian religion. But any religious programming that makes you feel like you are undeserving, sinful, that you have to, like, that gives you all of these rules on how to live, how to connect to God, beyond being a good person and following your heart. I mean, to me, that's not good. So and I know that religious programming has really come up in like the spiritual community over the last year. It's caused a ton of confusion with people that personally that I know in my memberships or in my courses, and they get a lot of fear. I just want to say quickly about that. If someone is coming from a place of fear and paranoia, it's not of the light. As simple as that. If it's coming from a place of fear and paranoia, and you can recognize that, you see it, I know you do, it's not of the light. You don't have to listen to that. You can let that go and continue walking your path of the light. It should feel like 1,000 pounds off your shoulders. It should feel so free and beautiful. Unconditional love and oneness, loving all, forgiving all, being compassionate to all, understanding that oneness means that there's a place for shadows and light, all encompassing. Okay, so that's what it should feel like when it's the truth. I also just wanted to say that a lot of these kinds of religions condone abuse within the family. So unfortunately for me, my father, this abusive person, when he finally did come back from rehab, my mom kind of tried to get him to come to some meetings, and he actually, after a few years, it took him a while, because he had some wild ways. He was a part of like a motorcycle gang thing that they would go around doing things, selling drugs, doing all kinds of stuff that obviously he couldn't do in this religion. So after a couple of years, maybe when I was like closer to 8 or 9, he decided to join the religion. He let go of everything except drinking, basically. So the drugs, but he kept the abusive ways, the violence, the emotional, mental, physical abuse to all of us, all 3 women there. And I do feel like that gets swept under the rug in these kinds of religions. It did with our family, and it certainly did with other ones that I saw too, where, you know, somebody, a mother or a daughter, would go to the like elders of the congregation, which were always men, and say, this is happening in my home and it shouldn't be. And they would, okay, well, we'll do we'll have some meetings with that abusive father, whomever it was, and, you know, help them straighten out their ways. There was never police. They never allowed police to get involved, even when they should have. And it just, you know, basically they got a slap on the wrist. And if they said they were sorry, they could just go and then secretly start doing it all over again. So, one other thing that I did have written down here that I wanted to just say before I move on from the religion is like, I had these gifts, okay, that were not okay to this religion. Clairaudience was very, very powerful for me. I know I've talked about that before, actually, in a recent video, the one called Are You Hearing Voices? I talked about how, like, that's the very first thing that happened for me at a very young age, like maybe grade 1, 2, 3, like very young. I can't remember exactly when it started. I would be able to hear between, like, other, beyond my own dimension, beyond 3D. I would be able to hear into 4D, like ghosts, spirits. I would be able to sense my spirit guides, angels. I was sensing and hearing and feeling a lot because of the way that the religion was. When I would try to explain what I was experiencing, what would come back is, oh, that's demons, right? That's demons trying to get you. They're bothering you. You must be doing something wrong to let them in. Like, why are the demons bothering you? What are you doing? Are you having bad thoughts? Like, what are you like, it's your fault, basically. So then you just stop telling anyone that that's what's happening. And you try to stop it because you also believe at a young age. I mean, obviously, then I became afraid of myself. I became afraid of what is this power that I have? What is this connection that I have? I was very afraid. So I tried to shut it down. I didn't really do it like, I couldn't shut it down, but I did try to. I also remember, other than the past lives and the clairaudience, another thing that was happening was, so this religion, so I guess we're talking about this a little bit longer. We're moving on soon. It also talked about within that religion that there was 144,000 chosen ones that were sent to earth to help God's cause or whatever. And I always resonated with that, because they got to live in heaven and not on earth. When the Armageddon happened and the paradise on earth happened, they didn't have to stay on earth. They got to go to heaven. And that, I knew that's where I belonged. Like, I belonged up in the stars, in the heavens. I didn't belong on earth because I haven't done a lot of earth lifetimes and I don't fit in here and it doesn't feel good to me. So to try to explain that, I remember trying to tell my dad that when he was like newly in the religion, and saying to him, like, but Dad, like, I came from heaven and I'm going back there. So maybe that they're talking about me. And he would say, that's your ego. You just want to be important. You just want to feel important. And I was like, I don't think so. Like, I don't think so. I just really know this. Like, I just really feel this. And he would say, you don't want to live forever on earth? And I would say, no, I don't want to live forever on earth. That's a terrible future to me. That's the last thing I want to do. Like, I do not want to be here. And so that would really get him really angry and everybody really confused, right? Very confusing for everyone. And then the last big thing that happened was, I guess I kind of have to include this. So we moved from like the first place in the countryside to a different place in a little town called Norwood, and we lived in a haunted house. So that really amped up my clairaudience. Like, everything was just so heightened because there was this really powerful spirit. That was like a teenage boy. It felt like a young spirit, ghost, earthbound spirit that had died and stayed behind, didn't cross over. And, it was very eerie. There's just a lot of eerie things that happened. A lot was going on, and my senses were off like the charts. So I was really afraid that it was demons, obviously. Why wouldn't I think that when everyone keeps telling me that? And then we were living there, I think I was like maybe 12 years old, and I tried smoking cigarettes, and my sister found out, and she told my mom, and my mom decided that her daughter would not do that unless there was demons involved. Like, my Jenny would never try cigarettes. There must be demons. So again, we're back to the friggin' demon thing constantly. So that was like a ton of fear too once I tried to leave the religion. Oh my God. And so if anybody's going through that, I have been through that, and trying to heal that fear is so intense. But anyway, what happened was she ended up trying to do an exorcism on me. I don't think that I can really, like, I'm not ready to even talk about that yet. It was so bad. And it left like major emotional scars for me in that whole process that she tried to put me through for this exorcism, because she didn't even know what she was doing. And what she ended up doing was activating the spirit in the home to try to come and protect me, because it was very powerful. It was this very very real ghost that was like playing a role in our day all the time. It was always around, it felt like. And because it was like younger in age, it took a liking to me and my sister. And it tried to protect me in a way during the exorcism, which really made things worse, by like kind of pushing back at my mom and telling her to leave me alone. But then she just thinks that what she's doing is working or whatever. It got really bad. So I was left with like a lot of problems. So I slipped into depression, an anxiety disorder, and PTSD. Now, PTSD is no joke, okay? That's really serious. It's like where your brain cannot even handle the trauma that you just went through. So it starts to like break things apart for you. You start losing your memories, you start zoning out. You've got all of this trauma in your brain. Your brain's trying to help you by moving it around and not holding it in one spot. So you've got repressed memories that then get created. I did feel like my soul got shattered in that experience of the exorcism, like a piece of me. Like I just went blank partway through. Like I don't even know what happened. I just couldn't live through it at that young age. I think I was 12 or 13. So I just kind of like went somewhere else for a while until it was over. And that kind of like splintered my soul and required us so much healing. I had to do a soul retrieval later in my 30s. I ended up calling back that piece of myself that I lost in that experience. So soul retrievals are so important and so powerful. You can do them for your childhood, like I did, or past lives. This is something that I've done in my membership group. So if you're interested in that, let me know. Okay, so yes, so now I've got PTSD, depression, and anxiety. Great. And things at home were very abusive still, and I need to get out. So as soon as I turned 18, I moved out. I couldn't move out before then because my father would not let me. He said he would send the cops to come and get me back. He wanted that control or whatever. But as soon as I turned 18, I was gone. I got my own apartment. I got a nighttime shift job at Tim Hortons, which in the US, if you live here, it's like Dunkin' Donuts basically. I worked the night shift. So I would like work all night, come home and sleep, get up, work all night, just to be able to afford the rent of my apartment. This led to this lifestyle and being alone, coupled with the PTSD, the depression, the anxiety, not wanting to be a part of a religion, but being afraid to leave. It all just led to addiction. So I started drinking a lot. I started smoking pot a lot, not just once a day, all day long. Those two basically together. I tried some other things, but mostly it was just like drinking and marijuana and cigarettes. I needed to escape. I could not live in the present moment, which is really too bad because that's the only place your power is. But I couldn't handle so I understand if you're an addict right now or if you've suffered with it, I understand the pain of just trying to live one sober moment. It's too much. It's too much. Literally, I could not handle it. I could not feel all of those feelings. I had to escape. And that went on for many, many years. From 18 to 33. So I'm not, and I, all day, every day. Like, I'm not kidding. Like, it was so bad. And I do feel guilty about that still. Like, I just wasted so much time, but it was the best I could do. That was literally the best I could do. So, side note, when I got sober at 33, I think it was 33, I started my YouTube channel and everything changed. So if you're struggling with addiction, I'm going to be having actually like a course coming out soon called Sober Spirit, which is going to help anyone, somebody that's really struggling with addiction or just somebody that wants a break. It's going to help you get through 30 days because your first 30 days are the hardest. So it's going to be a 30-day program called Sober Spirit. I decided to make that because there was nothing for me when I had to get sober. There was nothing. AA was awful, let me say. NA, all of it was awful. I needed something that made sense to me in a spiritual way. So I'm going to be doing that. I'm going to create that because I need to for myself in a way. Okay, so where are we now? Okay, so I'm 18, working night shift, totally an addict, super depressed, and all these things. Back to religion things. In that religion, which I was still going to the meetings because it was the only thing that I knew. And I was alone. What else was I going to do? In that religion, they really encourage very young marriage. So my sister got married before she was even out of high school. She wasn't even done. And she's having babies. And so I also got married very young. So I decided maybe that was going to help me. There was this nice other soul. And I thought that that could potentially like save me in a way. So but when that happens so young, you're not who you're going to be. You're not prepared for that kind of responsibility or look at the life I was living. I was not ready to make that choice. So obviously that did not last. But it was an important time. And during that experience, I actually started to stop going to meetings. I finally felt like, okay, I think I was maybe like early 20s. And I'm like, okay, I don't want to go to meetings anymore. I don't want to do this anymore. I want to do something else. And then someone gave me the book, The Secret. I think it was in 2007. And that changed a lot for me. That book, oh my God, like I know it's a simple read now because we know so much more, but if you haven't read it, I'll just say it's powerful. The intention I feel like that the author created it with was so powerful to help break people free of the system. And it did. It really helped me to see that like I could have more control. Then I realized I didn't know anything about the law of attraction. I had no idea why I was constantly creating the same cycles of suffering. Because like literally my mind, I was having all of these like anxiety and depression and racing thoughts that just continued to create more and more of that thing. So The Secret really helped me. After I got the book The Secret and read it, I took it to heart. I was like ready to that was my new life. I was going to just do this. But really what it was just a doorway to something else. It felt like I found magic again in the world, which is really important. And I was like, I knew it. I knew magic was real. I knew that this heaviness of this religion that I've been raised in was not the thing. That's not the truth. They always go on about, they call it the truth. It's not the truth. It's not. The truth, my truth, was this much lighter, high vibrational, magic, hopeful, exciting feeling. And I was so relieved when I found that. Then I started playing around with the idea of oracle cards. I remember getting my first oracle deck and being so nervous because of the whole like demon thing, like that intense fear that they put in. But I did it anyway. I was brave and I was courageous and I made real connections and I started to get to know one of my spirit guides. I have a spirit guide, the very first one that came to me. Her name is Amy. And okay, so the first thing that happened was I would feel her presence when I was playing with these cards. So then I just started talking to her, like, I know you're there. I want to hear you. Like, can you speak to me? So then when I was in between like sleep and wake, like just falling asleep or just waking up, she would yell out my name, Jenny. It was so loud in the room, it would startle me. So if that's ever happened to you, that's your guides trying to get your attention to let you know that they're there. And then I had a dream that was more than a dream, you know, when it's more than a dream, where she came up and shook my hand and said, "Hi, I'm Amy." And she looked kind of like me, but older, almost like an aunt or something. Um, I didn't know who she was. I've uncovered a lot more about her since, but it was such a relief to know that, like, this was very real. Like, this was really happening to me. I wasn't creating it, it was happening. And then I started, like, then my clairaudience really started coming back online, along with a lot of other things, like, you know, being able to clairsentience, being able to sense it, claircognizance, getting these downloads. Clairvoyance was the last thing for me because I had a lot of fear. If you're struggling with your third eye, it's probably religious programming. That's what it is. I do like psychic reconnections and clearings where I attach all of your psychic centers back to your pineal gland where they need to be attached so that your brain can translate what you're receiving. And what I find when I'm looking at blocks and stuff, what I find the most in the third eye is that it's religious trauma or programming. It's fear usually. That's exactly what it was for me too. So that was the last one to come online, but when it did, boy, did it come online powerfully. So if you're interested in, like, you can check out my website. I have a service, I think it's under the healing tab. So click on healings and you'll see it's a psychic reconnections and pineal gland activation one. It's really super powerful too. So, okay, so that was like, this how The Secret kind of helped me to open up and break free of this religion. I did stop going to meetings. I did end that relationship and I got my own place. And it was different than the first time I got my own place and all of that misery and darkness, where I was working the night shift and all of this. I got my own place in Peterborough. I don't know if anybody knows Canada, but Peterborough, Ontario, which is like a little city. And I got like a really nice job where I was teaching young children singing. It was like singing classes and stuff. I was also like a manager at a store in a mall, and I was really just starting to thrive, and really kind of just like really letting go, doing the shadow work, like really letting go of the last bits of that religious programming, really calling in my psychic gifts and seeing that they were divine and nothing to be afraid of. And that is when, in the year 2012, I had my first Kundalini awakening. And it took a lot to get there, but it was so worth it, doing all of that shadow work. If you want to experience a Kundalini awakening, my suggestion is starting at the bottom, at the root chakra, and clearing all the way up to the crown. You have to clear a pathway for it to rise. So you should spend like a week or two on each chakra and don't move on until you're ready. So what do you do? So you can place your hands over where that chakra energy center is and meditate. You can send yourself love. You can send in the intention that anything that's not for your highest good that's living within that chakra can now leave. Blocks, memories, past lives. You'd be amazed at what comes through and what you can create for yourself. If you need help, again, that is a service that I offer called Galactic Healing, where I start at the bottom and work my way up through every single energy center, every chakra, starting at the Earth Star, which is like the bottom one below the root, all the way up to your Soul Star chakra. And we clear it all. And that creates a pathway for Kundalini to rise. So the Kundalini is the power and the remembrance of who you really are and oneness, and it rises up through your body and out your crown chakra and creates a moment of enlightenment. It can last a minute, 2 minutes, an hour, 2 hours, 3 days. It's different for everyone and it's different each time, but it's very hard to explain. I actually did try to explain it in the video called What Does Enlightenment Feel Like? And I tried to describe for you that moment, that mind-blowing awakening moment of remembering that you are so much more than the human. It's very hard to explain because it's like you're in that moment, you're God again, or you're part of source again, and you can see, looking down from this higher perspective, how everything in your life is this checkerboard and all the moves were necessary, and it just really helps you with like healing, forgiveness, compassion, getting out of victim mentality, empowering yourself. It's so important. So I also found a book that really helped me after the first Kundalini Awakening. I started reading this book and it helped me have a couple more, and now I have them sporadically here and there. And the book was called Raise Your Vibration by Sabrina Reber. or How to Raise Your Vibration, I think, by Sabrina Reber. That book was really, again, I feel like there's something in the book, like the intention that it was made with, that really helped me to like kind of get into that really high vibration again. So where are we now? So now I'm living alone in Peterborough, having a huge spiritual awakening. This is the biggest one I've ever had. It's really changing who I am. People are saying stuff, like they feel my energy when I'm in the room with them. I'm literally glowing so brightly. I was felt so high vibrational at this time. And people were coming to me like a lot for, especially at my work, because I was a manager at a store and I had like a staff that was a little bit younger than me. And all of these girls kept coming to me for like advice about, you know, health and their mental health and things they were going through and their boyfriends and depression or whatever, everything. And I just felt so like blessed and grateful to be able to help them in this way, because I had gone through so many of the things that they were now going through. And I felt like I started channeling at that time. Like, you know, when somebody asks you for help or comes to you and you listen, and then when you start describing or explaining to them how they can help themselves, all of a sudden, you don't even know where the words are coming from. You're just channeling all of this incredible information to them. Yeah, so I definitely started channeling in a big way. And then from there, I found my next serious relationship. And that was a relationship where this other partner of mine, was so like logical and like an old soul, like logical, mature, like, but very earthy, very like earthbound person. So very opposite from me in most ways, I would say. Like the energy felt very different. It felt like an earth like energy, where I was always like up in the clouds, you know, like really spacey and like, you know, just very high vibrational. This felt like something steady. And what the beauty of that was, though that was a very turbulent relationship with a lot of ups and downs because of our differences, what that gave me was the stability to get sober. So that's when I finally was able to get sober, having like somebody that was kind of a rock where I could kind of let go and truly just like break down. And because when you try to get sober, as we spoke about earlier in this video, that moment that you've been avoiding, that present moment where all the pain is, you have to face that. And if you've been, as I had for that many years, from 18 to 33, just been avoiding that, you can just imagine how that pain has compounded over the years. And on top of that, now you're also dealing with like the addictions and the side effects of trying like to get that out of your system. It was, I think maybe I know I've said this before, but I think even now that's the hardest thing I've ever done. I've done a lot of hard things, but that was probably the hardest thing that I've ever done. That and forgiving my parents for like for the things that I went through. So the forgiveness, the true forgiveness, not just saying it, but truly being able to like be grateful for my childhood experience, forgive my parents, and, you know, send them love. Was super, super difficult, obviously. Breaking free from that cult religion. Oh my God, I remember when I did that, I was like, if I can do this, I can do anything. And then getting sober was even that much harder. So like my lessons just kept getting harder and harder, but I kept, like, it took so much bravery. It took so much bravery to get, because it's so easy to just be like, well, I'll just cut back. It's fine. Especially when they made everything like legal, like marijuana and stuff. It was all legal. So it's like, you know, that seemed like a great excuse to just keep going. Like, I'll just cut back. I'll just keep my eye on it. But I knew, I literally heard like my inner self crying out. And I remember I had like this really big moment where I was like cleaning the house, and all of a sudden I just heard, I don't know if it was Amy or my higher self or someone, like breaking through and being like, when are you going to give this up? I am so tired of living like a zombie. Like, you are giving away all of your time. You are going to regret this. You are going to regret wasting all of these years. When are you going to get it together? And it was like one of those like, whoa moments where I was like, oh shit. And then I had to like then tell the people in my life, like my mom and my partner at the time, like, I have a problem and I need help. And I don't know what to do, but I'm telling you that I need help. And I'm finally admitting, instead of all this denial, okay, I have a problem and I can't do this alone because I've tried and I can't. So I need outside help now. And that was, oh man, if you've gone through it, I just have all the respect and love for you, because that is so difficult to admit and say. and then do and stick with it. But I mean, it's been quite a few years now of living the sober life. And like I said to you, as soon as I got sober, I filmed my first YouTube video. Like, look how quickly I was on it. But you need to be clear in your mind and in the present moment to hear your soul nudges, to hear your intuition, to grasp what your earth mission is, your soul purpose. You can't do that under the influence of something. So if you're struggling, just use that as like as a as a way to like inspire yourself, because as soon as you get sober, all of that clarity will come through. And then you can make up for time. Don't feel bad, okay? Because there was like, that's not going to help anybody to feel guilty about all the years lost. I was like, fine, then I'll make up for time and I'll work extra hard and I will like create this spiritual business and be this spiritual entrepreneur. I'm still working at it. And I still feel like I always feel like I'm just starting. Even though I've been doing it for a couple of years now, I always feel like I'm just getting going because there's so much that I want to do. And it's so inspirational and it lights me up and it keeps me going. So, so then once I got sober and I started my business, I started growing really quickly. And that relationship that was like, it was pretty unaligned, it became way more obvious because I was just like on a skyrocket of growth. Of course, as soon as you step into your soul purpose, as soon as you step into being of service to others, like taking clients, putting free content out there, becoming the spiritual teacher or healer or whatever it is that is your archetype, as soon as you step into that, that's your highest timeline. And it's just like a straight shot upwards from there. So again, if hopefully that will inspire you to do the thing, like create the course, start offering the healing sessions. If you're a Reiki healer, or if you want to be, go get the training that you need, do something, because as soon as you take the first step, it's a skyrocket to your highest timeline where all the good is. So that's what happened. I just took off with growth so quickly. And then of course, then that relationship couldn't withstand that. It was just going to end up holding me back. And it's not fair to either partner when it's completely misaligned, unaligned like that. You need to kind of just like, okay, we've learned what we need to from each other, and now it's time to move on. And then that's when, then you've seen on this channel a lot of that. So that was like when I did my life update video where I had my place in Kingston, Ontario, and I had my apartment, and I was like really pumped to be like on my own with Gus. And just really like going all in. I started taking spiritual courses to help me with my business, changed a lot of things about my business, started putting myself out there by channeling live on YouTube, like things that I was doing with clients on one-on-one, starting to do it like on live on YouTube. I started the membership group. That's when I started the membership group. And then the more you do on your soul purpose, you just go higher, higher. Like it just kept growing, right? So the membership was huge for me. I love it. It's like my favorite thing to do every week. And that's when like true love arrived, because again, I believe that all the good exists on your highest timeline. So that's when I met my true love. Now, I met him actually through, like, in case anyone is wondering, I think we should do a whole video on that though, because it's a lot, but I did meet him through Starseed Academy. Like, he was a client, and every time he came to me for a reading, I kept seeing myself in his readings. Like, I would be talking about his past lives and I'm looking and I'm in that past life with him. And I'm like, oh, should I tell him? That's so unprofessional. I don't know what to do. Like, eventually, like, he kind of started putting it together and I admitted it. And then that just created like a really strong bond that grew and grew. Of course, he was not in my country. So I kind of thought, especially with like the travel bans and the COVID and all this, I kind of thought it wasn't going to be possible, but I'd been following my soul nudges all that time, and it had kept getting me to the next stage of my highest timeline, the next place, the next step, the next like spiritual awakening. Like, you just keep having them. It's not just one. You just keep going and keep going. And so I thought, you know what? I've been listening to my heart this whole time. I've been taking all kinds of risks, starting over many times. Maybe I need to do that again. And so I sold my car and I sold my furniture and I packed up my personal belongings and I moved to the US and started a whole new life. And that was a risk. I mean, we had talked on the phone for months and months and months. We had had one visit before like the borders were pretty much closed down. So that was a huge risk. One visit's not a lot to go off of, but when it's your true love, like when you've had so many lifetimes together, there's like no words to really describe that surety that you feel. Like I felt so sure. I felt afraid, but I still felt sure. I felt like I had to, like I just had to, I had to go. And also I felt like as soon as you outgrow a timeline, you can feel it. I felt like I'm in the wrong timeline again. I need to go. It's the next scariest thing. It's the next scary decision or change or step that you need to make. You got to keep chasing that highest timeline, right? So I didn't want to be left behind. So I did it. And yes, it was scary. Yes, it was a risk, but clearly it worked out because we got married on April 3rd. And like I said at the beginning of this video, like all the good. Disney, we're moving into a new house May 15th. I mean, it just feels so aligned and so right. And I feel so blessed. And I just want to keep taking these scary risks. I just want to keep trusting in my soul and in my heart and in my inner voice. It's only led me to goodness, to growth, to abundance, to love, to my purpose, to expansion. And I mean, that's where I'm at now. So I started this video out telling you about where I'm at now, the highest timeline and all the blessings that I'm experiencing right now. Then we went back through like what I've been through to get here. And here we are. And here I am in this present moment with you, thriving, healthy, in love, pushing in my business for the next amazing thing, pushing for my own spiritual growth for that next amazing thing, taking chances, taking risks, and just like, honestly, like feeling inspired by myself. That's huge. That's so huge. So to all of you that have been requesting me to share my life story with you, here you go. If there's any questions, I mean, there probably will be, please just post them down below. If you want to like bask in this amazing energy that I have going on and work with me, please join my membership. If you're not ready for that, then sign up for a one-on-one with me. I've got some of the things that I've explained in this, the healing, the psychic reconnections. I do readings for people. The most popular one is called a breakthrough reading, where you get a chance to chat with your team, question and answer about everything going on in your life, receive messages from them, get to know them. It's a really powerful reading. Make sure that you are subscribed to this channel for new videos every Sunday. On Starseed Academy here on YouTube. Follow me on Instagram because there is different kinds of content on Instagram, like lots of stories and posts. And then again, just check out the link in the description box if you want to work with me. If you want to, if you just want to like get to your next step, if you need to illuminate. The breakthrough reading, that session, that one-on-one, will illuminate for you the potential of your highest timeline and the steps to get there. And if you're inspired by this story, that's what you need. And then remember, I've got a couple of courses coming soon. The first one, the big one coming in June, is Unlock Your Highest Timeline. I've definitely unlocked mine. I've really figured something out, right? And I want to share exactly how to do that in the different areas of your life. So unlocking your highest timeline when it comes to relationships, money, abundance, your soul purpose, your earth mission for being here, and in your physical human. The physical human health, ascension, expansion, like mental health, physical health, all of that to do with the actual human, because you are a human. So that's an important thing that we can't leave out. So Unlock Your Highest Timeline is coming in June. If you are interested, then please message me because there's going to be a big early bird bonus. And I've asked people, I've done it on Instagram, maybe I haven't done it here on YouTube, I've asked them to message me. So message me on Instagram or Facebook that you're interested in the Unlock Your Highest Timeline course. And then I will let you know first when it comes out so that you can be one of the early birds and get that big bonus. And then the second course that's coming soon, I don't know when, but very soon, because it's so important to me, is sober spirit. And that's for anyone that's trying to let go of substances and live in the present moment as their themselves, their real true selves, find their power in the present moment as their sober selves. And it's going to take you through the first 30 days of your sobriety. And that's when you need the most help. And I'm really, really looking forward to creating something that I needed and wasn't available to me. Nothing like that exists. And I want to create that and bring that into this world for you, because I know that many people are going to be following my footsteps with that. So thank you for this. I know this video was a bit longer than normal, but there was a lot to cover. I'll be checking out your comments and questions. If there's something you want me to dive deeper into, please let me know. You know, surviving abuse, or if you want me to go deeper into that, religious programming, getting sober, you know, creating a business. What do you need more of? And keeping in mind that if you want it to be personal to you, book a breakthrough reading with me and keep your eye out for those great courses. So I love you all so much. I will see you next Sunday with a new video. And until then, please remember, listen to your heart and the quiet voice within, because you are so much more than the body you are in. I love you, beautiful star seeds. Talk to you soon. Bye.